I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, approval of our set agenda here. My motion, please.
I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda or the agenda.
Agenda. Second,
Second.
Jeff. Any discussion on it? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. All right, council comments. Who wants to start us off? Anybody got anything? I will say that me and Mr. McCallahan is going down tomorrow to Morganton. We've got a special invite to meet with the feds and state people and give us a roundtable discussion on what they've seen, what they've done, what they're planning on doing. It's an all-day event pretty much. We get there around 8:30ish and leave at 4:30. So who knows what all is going to be heard and said. So we'll bring back some information from that. With nothing else in council comments, we'll move on to our regular agenda. Hey, consider, do we want to, I know we've done approved this agenda, but since James is running late from the airport, do we want to, can we move these two around now, or is it too late? We done approved it.
That agenda belongs to the board. Absolutely. It being a special meeting, you cannot add to it, but you can use whatever order you choose.
Okay, so James told me it's going to take just a minute. Marcus, it won't take us long through this one. Just give him a chance to get here. So let's move to B, the consideration of the part of grant agreement with authorization for me to sign it.
Yeah, just as you all know, the town of Mills River was awarded a $500,000 grant from the Parks and Recreation Trust Fund for reimbursement for the acquisition of the property purchased last summer. So to get our funds, we need to sign a grant agreement. So it's just a standard form from the state that they use for all their agreements. And essentially, just to meet the requirements, the contract will need to be signed. We do need to complete another appraisal that we will have to turn in with our purchase paperwork, and then a deed or a clause needs to be placed in the deed requiring it to be for recreational use to be eligible for that money. So we're here today just asking you all to give the mayor permission to sign and to answer any questions you have.
So do you in any way, I'm almost glad this came up first. Are you in any way, with this contract with the county to potentially put storm debris over there affect this part of grant at all?
No, well, so the requirement in the grant, because it is for reimbursement, our only requirement is that we have to begin construction in 5 years. And, we're talking about a 9-month contract here.
Okay.
So even if we're ready, if you all tell me tomorrow you want to get going on building something over there, by the time we get through design, engineering, all those things, it would not affect
Okay,
this at all.
okay. Any discussion? Hearing none? No? I'd entertain a motion to approve or deny. Go ahead.
Do I need to recuse myself from this?
From the part of grant,
Oh, no, never mind.
the part of grant.
Okay.
Yeah.
You throwed me off with the
I'm
storm.
sorry. I'm sorry. I jumped around on you. Okay.
Okay.
Mayor Gauntz, I move the council authorize you to sign the grant agreement for the part of.
Sign and approve to accept, correct?
Yes.
Okay,
Please reflect.
okay.
Yeah.
How about a
I'll
second?
second.
Sandra, second. Any more discussion on it?
Just, I
Hearing
don't
none.
know if you want to do it as a separate motion, but we'll also need you to authorize him to sign the deed
Oh, the deed.
that lists the clause to dedicate it to parkland.
So would you wish for that to be in a separate, or can we combine?
I'll remind you have motions in front of you, but I think since the one motion's already made, you can vote on it and do a separate motion for the.
Okay, sounds good. So any more discussion on what's the motion on the top floor? Hearing none. All in favor of that motion?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none. So now we need a motion for me to be able to sign the deed. How about a second? Okay, do we need to hear any verbiage that our clerk has drafted up for that motion?
Again, I
right here.
remind you, there are motions in front of you.
Okay,
But if your intent is for that motion is to approve the new deed, and I'm sorry, you got it right here?
Mayor,
I make, if your intent was to, this is,
This is correct motion. Resolution 413, but it's actually supposed to be.
yeah, just sign it.
hang on, we're correcting the motion. But does this work just for the deed?
Okay.
Be the deed and the resolution.
Need it
'cause
in the
you-
rest.
Okay.
But is that, hold on. May, give me 1 second to confirm.
Yeah, because we separated it, we're just correcting it.
Okay,
Well, I
okay,
think it says related documents, which would be the deed, so it's if you say you approved him to sign related documents and adopt resolution 2024-13.
Okay, yes, if you would make the motion to adopt documents related to the part of grant, including resolution 2024-13, that resolution authorizes the mayor to sign the deed.
Okay.
And if you're comfortable with that, we'll just write that down.
everybody okay with that? Jeff,
So
your motion.
the motion needs, this is a question. The motion needs to reflect that we are approving the resolution, which contains the verbiage that the mayor's authorizes signed updated deed.
Yes. So in on your green packet on page 3, there is a motion to, at that part, it actually, instead of saying authorizing the town manager, if it's authorizing the mayor to sign it and related documents, hereby adopting resolution 2413. Resolution 2413 explicitly states that the mayor may sign the deed.
Don't matter for me who signs it. As long as it's approved.
Well, I'm just saying, for the mayor to be able to,
Okay.
the resolution in that reflects the same
Okay.
language,
Okay,
having you sign.
Yes, I'll amend my motion to approve the resolution authorizing execution of the Parks and Recreation Trust Fund grant and authorize the mayor to sign it and all related documents.
okay, that good? Or would you like to see that resolution number in there?
Resolu- I gave the title of
Resolution
it, but Resolution
2020.
2024-13.
There you go.
Thank you.
That covers it. You still good on your second, Sandra?
She said.
Oh, you say, okay. All right, so all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none. Okay, you're good. All right, so let's just jump back up to A. Let's just roll on with it.
So,
Uh,
Mr. Cantrell has informed me that he will not be able to make it this evening.
Okay. All right, sounds good. So A, consideration of the storm debris site contract with Henderson County. You
Yes.
want to lead us in that?
Yes, so Mayor and Council, before we jump in, I just want to thank you all for your patience as we worked through this draft lease agreement that is before you, as well as the staff report. I'll go through that in just a second. And once I'm done talking, I'm going to turn it over to Marcus Jones, who's the county engineer, who is here to answer any questions that you all may have, and also to provide context where I may fall short in that context. So I just want to thank him for being here as well. But as a reminder, on October 24th, 2024, the parcel behind us that is marked for the Parks and Rec Master Plan, the contract that was there was amended and approved by council, and with terms amenable to Mr. Bradley Johnston. That amended lease ended on November 1st. And so as a part of that, well, not separate from that, now the town is able to entertain a lease agreement, a proposed lease agreement with the county per our mutual conversation that we have had, where we can provide a storm debris removal site, temporary storm debris removal site on the property behind us. for assistance with, again, vegetative and other storm debris due to Tropical Storm Helene. And so I'll go over briefly what the terms of the agreement are before you, and then open up to any questions, and again, turn it over to Mr. Jones. So the lease, proposed lease before you has a term starting on November 8th of 2024 with a minimum of 9 months, which will be going into August of 2025. And it has an option to renew the lease for a maximum 4 additional 6-month terms. So again, if council at some point decides that they would like to not end it at that point and want, there are automatic clauses for it to continue approving. Now, that being said, there is a 60-day termination notice by either party that is a part of this contract. The acreage that the county has requested is 35 total acres that are located outside of the floodplain and excluding the dairy farm and other buildings on that property. The fee per acre has been agreed to, again, in principle, per the draft lease agreement in front of you, at $300 per month per acre. Hours of operation are stated at 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Right now, that is 7 days a week in the contract, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. for authorized traffic only. And the site must be shut down by 6 p.m. The use of this property is twofold. So the contract before you states that one section of this property shall be set aside for residents of Henderson County to be able to deposit the storm debris from their sites if they are able to get it here. One of the major points of this is to make sure that, again, we know that there are community members that have quite a bit of storm debris. And if this is a way that we can help provide an opportunity for our community members to be able to get it off of their property and to be able to get back to some form of normal life for themselves, then we want to be able to provide that. And at the same time, the other part of the property is going to be used by the contractor and or subcontractors with the larger Henderson County debris removal contract to be able to bring that storm debris here for sorting and treatment. And so again, this would be a site, and again, just speaking generally, would allow therefore, as some of you all may have seen, those storm debris trucks that are going out there and removing it from your properties. This would be an additional site to make sure that they can be housed. There are benefits that are associated with that, and I know Mr. Jones will probably go into this in more detail. But the idea that generally speaking, there's a radius where these trucks come from. So again, having one in Mills River at this location means that, again, going out, the trucks are coming in to Mills River and then going out to Mills River residents, and as they continue to go out and make progress on our storm debris removal. The types of debris that are spelled out within this contract are both vegetative and non-hazardous pieces and portions of homes and other structures. Not permitted are any pollutant, contaminants, chemicals, or industrial, toxic, or hazardous substances. Per the contract, the site, per state requirements, must be secured, and the county is responsible for ensuring that proper security, including the screening of all persons in traffic. So again, there will be people monitoring those, people that come in. You may have seen them on stands, monitoring who's coming in and who's coming out. And finally, the county has agreed to be responsible for maintaining all the roads and entry points for the duration of this lease agreement. So, for instance, right now under the terms of this lease is that the maintenance road, as you all may know, this gravel road behind her, this would be the entry point and exit point, and then the county has agreed to maintain it during the time of the lease, but then also to make sure it gets back to its previous condition once it is done. And then also responsible for as I mentioned here, the county is responsible for ensuring the property is returned to its pre-lease condition. That is not just the road, that's the entire property. So that includes, I didn't go into detail in my staff report, but that includes things such as soil testing to ensure that anything that's on this property that there will be monitoring and then ensuring that it's back to like condition as of this current moment. I did a quick rough fiscal impact, as you can see on the bottom here. Again, this is subject to conversation, but they have requested that 35 acres at $300 per month per acre per month at 9 months. That's approximately $94,500 that would be a part of this lease agreement for the first 9 months. Again, it is, the terms are, again, open to conversation and extension, but that is just the rough estimate that is built into the current lease term. And so I'm going to pause there. I'm happy to go into more detail. We do have, I'm happy to answer questions about buffering, and other conditions that may need to be discussed. And like I said, Mr. Jones is here. If it's all right, actually, before Mr. Jones, if I may turn it over to him, counsel,
Sure.
just is there anything else that I may have left out or brushed over in my overview?
No, I think did a great job putting together the needs for the debris collection and the direction. I think we have a pretty good experience, and certainly it's a significant benefit to the county collection effort. Obviously, it will benefit directly to Oak River, but it will have indirect benefits to the other side of the county. It is a FEMA funded operation. And some of the things that sound kind of strange about it are probably because of the FEMA criteria to get first. We're set up to have sites split in two. Operation for the contractor and then separate operation for public. But FEMA does restrict that public to just residents. It's contracted. County has two contracts, one with SDR, who is the collection. Competitively awarded the contract during an on-storm time, and so they were one of the contractors available and reactivated them in a day after the storm, and they will maybe have another contract with Debris Tech, who is tasked with monitoring and testing. So SDR's trucks go out, and there's FEMA staff that goes with them to ensure compliance and ensure free. Also taking records of, we've got records of every truck, where they picked up, when they picked up, the issues. We're pretty confident we can get back to the root of it. Identify what is going on.
Let's ask you a few questions. So let's start out with, is it gonna be, the perimeter gonna be fenced and gated, or how is security gonna be addressed?
We haven't done that with any of our previous sites. We are required to have a gate at the entrance road. And hopefully that'll provide enough security. I guess my overarching thought would be that we need to be able to have the site to do debris work, but we've worked really hard to set up a good lease that accounts for most of the things, but the lease is not in my mind, is not the definitive thing. If something's developed during the course of operations that's not acceptable or that we can change, we certainly would.
Marcus, do you have any sites now that's collecting household or construction debris at this time other than the landfill?
Both of our sites.
Okay.
Yeah, they have been permitted, but we are waiting on the test results to come back, and then we'll start taking that debris.
So you haven't took any debris at the sites yet?
Yeah. Right
I'm
now-
just curious to see, is anybody gonna be pillaging through it at night? I mean, I'm just wondering.
I-
Especially a 35 acre site, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, there's it.
Brush and stuff, I get, it's that household that's what's,
Yeah, I don't have any precedent for
okay,
the sites yet with
Okay.
with the demolition debris. But SDR it's not their first rodeo. They have a really strong reputation in North Carolina especially out on the eastern part where
Okay.
we get a lot of hurricanes. So, you know, that, if that's we do every once in a while have a problem at the land with somebody breaking into the landfill, steal trash. And we've been successful at, stopping that
Okay.
with any, game cameras and all sorts of
Okay.
different ways to do that. But,
If I may as well, and I alluded to it in the contract as well, we did build in, general security is necessary on that, and I just want to reiterate, what Mr. Jones has said, is that the contract, the lease itself does allow that if we see that there are potential issues coming around something such as security, then the county is open to having that conversation with us to make sure that it remains secure,
Okay.
and whatever that may be, and again, that'll be a part of a discussion. I don't want to speak
No,
speak for
no.
you, but that is my understanding.
no, yeah, we're committed to, we very much appreciate the opportunity. We're committed to,
And we want to help. I want to help. I'm sure some of these others do too, but we got a housing development right behind it. So are you familiar with this? We're talking about possibly burning some of this, correct? Or maybe not.
yes, that, but when you say that, you think of open burning, and this would be, an air curtain burner, or some folks
Okay.
call it a pit burner. So it's a container that has a large fan that blows on it. So
Okay.
it's,
Incinerates it pretty quick.
yeah, it's a lot
Basically.
cleaner than
Yeah.
an open burning by a long shot. It still requires an air quality permit. But, and that's one of the options. Ultimately, I think that's what's gonna be the process that really reduces it enough and gets ahead of the game. But we also, the 191 site we have now, has a grinder there. So
Yeah.
it grinds up the
Okay.
material into a mulch, and then it's all about transportation. As your manager alluded to, there's a certain distance away from the site that was really not feasible to haul unground wood material. And you want to get it to the site, get it minimized, and get it to where you can transfer it, at a feasible way. But even with air burning, there is residual material, and that would be taken to our transfer station.
Okay.
Um,
And if I may as well, just additional context again, just that may be helpful for council, is that if there is that burning process that happens, it will be, my understanding is that and that'll be a part of the soil testing, making sure that, it is, the property is brought back to like new under any condition that is being done as a part of this. There's also, if I try my best not to read minds, but there may be, but in case there's a question out here about this, my understanding is that the general buffer zone around this site is 100 feet. But to do any other type of reduction process, there's a minimum of 350 feet from the borders as well. Is that correct?
That's correct. And that's part of our permit with the solid waste section, with, DEQ. So we have to have 100-foot separation from roads and property. And then, for grinding operations and reducing operations, it is a 350 foot area. Correct.
I know y'all got some questions. Go ahead.
Well, exactly which 35 acres is this going to be?
Yes. So, and then, thank you, Councilmember Good, as well, for bringing that up. I neglected to mention that. So in your packets, on the back of the staff report, as well as on the back of the proposed lease agreement as well under Exhibit A, the gray area that you see highlighted in there, it's essentially, for those, and I apologize, it may take a second for it to get pulled up, and Kevin, it may actually not be a part of the major packet since this came later. It's actually from basically the dairy. So think of the dairy building and then going towards 191. So again, the purpose of that. So from the dairy across towards Mills River Village and then forward. And the rationale for that is one, it takes it completely out of the 100-year floodplain and takes it out of most, if not all, of the 500-year floodplain. And there are requirements that state it cannot be within the floodplain area. So this is keeping it outside of that.
So Marcus, while they're looking and reading, this is plowed ground.
Mhm.
how y'all gonna address that going into winter here and it freezing and thawing? Is there a game plan for
We've got heavy equipment that can,
just try to keep it packed down? Okay,
it's, yeah.
Okay. And you said that it's gonna be 100 feet off the lines.
Off the property lines and, so, yeah, and the road, so roads is also the property line in this case.
Okay.
And if I may, Councilmember Good, just for further clarification, so for the properties that are abutting 191, it's not 100 yards from the road at those points, it's 100 yards from
The
the
property
property
line,
line.
Yes.
Right.
Wherever, and if the property line is the road, then it's 100 yards from the road, so that,
100 yards or 100 feet?
100 feet.
100 feet.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Okay.
I'm sorry if I misspoke there.
Well, when Matt called me last night, I sat down and just wrote some questions out. So if you don't mind, I'll just kind of run through them. I was looking to see if any of them got checked off that was talking here earlier. And the fencing did. You're not gonna fence it.
That's the plan. I mean, you can buy temporary construction fencing, but, I'm not sure if that's FEMA eligible, but we would certainly like to try without that first and then see if there's a need.
Okay. And what about wildlife on the property?
I
There's,
don't think it would impact our operations,
Okay.
but,
well, I know there, we've had otters in the streams
Yeah,
and
we won't-
stuff.
They'll have to stay so many feet off
Yes.
those streams
Off
as
those
well.
Okay,
yeah, that's another 100 feet from open waters and
Yeah.
streams, so.
okay. And let's see, what about fire danger?
We would not be doing open burning.
Mm.
And so it would be, if we were, and if you were okay with it, would do, air curtain or pit burning, which
Right.
is very contained and,
I was thinking about mulch piled up.
hopefully the mulch won't be there long enough to, but that is a risk, but it would be separated and contained. And, we've had, mulch at the landfill catch on fire as well. So
Yeah,
it's a matter of managing it well, and then, if it does catch fire, you've got ways. to do it.
okay. If you burn and dig a hole, how deep are you gonna dig it?
Well, an air curtain burner is a metal, looks like a dumpster, a real long dumpster.
So it's not even burn on the ground.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay,
But a pit is about, it probably varies depending on how you build it, but it's about the same height as, a dumpster would be, 10 feet, 8 feet.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's good to know.
it is. It
Yeah, the
is.
water table's high.
All our roads and everything in here inside, even except this buildup area, we had to put geo
New grid fabric.
down to even, we're basically floating them in here. It's pipe clay. As soon as you get down about this far, you get that pipe clay, and then there's a water level. So yeah, it's just, it is what it is.
Well, that's good to know. And then
Yeah.
we would look at above ground
Okay,
air curtain burning
okay.
case.
And
They can certainly test some spots to see if they could get down. Cause it changes as it moves, but it's pretty flat right through here.
yeah,
And just for clarification, in the lease agreement for you, it spells out that both mulching and burning, it doesn't, as an option.
Right.
It doesn't state that it must be done. So again, depending on the site specific, my understanding is that if it won't work there, it won't work, but it's built into the lease as if it would work.
And I've got to ask a question just because we got people here. We'd only be burning the vegetation,
Oh, correct.
none of the household. No,
No,
okay, yeah,
That'd be shit.
yeah, I know. I just had to ask because
No, that's a good point. The structural debris may get shredded
Mhm.
to reduce it
Yeah.
or just drop on top
Yeah.
of it and, crush it
Mhm.
for it. It's more dense than the vegetated
Yeah.
debris, so it's easier to get it. The trick is, tractor trailer load, is 20 tons and you want to get 20 tons
Yeah.
in that tractor trailer load. So you want to densify and reduce the material so you're getting, good bang for the taxpayers.
I got you. I agree.
Because it's federal money, but it's still our,
Still I'm right.
yeah, still our money.
so with the burn curtain thing you're talking about, there wouldn't be any embers coming out.
No, not, it has a big fan that blows into it. and it wouldn't be located, I mean, it would be located away from combustible materials. But
Right.
I wish you asked me to, reminded me to do it and I didn't, I failed to bring a video or a picture of it, but,
Okay.
air curtain burner. And, it's a very, we are looking at getting one for the landfill because the trick, the, what really makes that get you ahead of the game is that you don't have to grind the material. You can collect the vegetative material and put it straight into the air curtain burner. So you avoid a step and you much greater reduce the volume with air curtain.
Okay. So there's no embers coming out and the air quality, it doesn't affect that.
But you have to have an air quality permit. So there are impacts. So that, and that's what, the permit is for, is to be able to control the impacts and to, that make, and the permit also comes with restrictions and, requirements on how to
Okay.
operate it.
And rainwater runoff?
Uh,
As far as you're talking about just the rain carrying
Going
any of
into
the
the burn
sediment,
pit and coming out?
yeah, well, if it's a pit, it'll be contained in the pit per se,
or the,
Or the
metal.
metal container.
Okay.
But, and that's also part of the requirement for those buffer zones to happen. So you've got the natural attenuation, uh,
The biggest problem we're gonna have here, Marcus, and everybody knows that the wind blows through here because we're wide open. So one thing going forward, I'd ask is we try to maintain if we get into that household part of it, fabrics and papers and stuff like that, if it goes to going across or this way toward the tree, you can imagine what Asheville's gonna say if a bunch of debris ends up in their pond or whatever. We're gonna have to be leery of that because the wind blows through here like crazy.
and I care a little bit about.
I understand.
Well, this is watershed too.
Yeah, I
Um,
understand.
No, that's a good point. And, we employed litter fences at the landfill for that exact reason.
Okay.
That's not a big expense. And,
Okay.
I could envision, the vegetated debris being on the windward side and,
Yeah, there's a break.
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect.
If I may, Marcus, if you can provide us, we talked about monitoring the site, and I'm so sorry, Councilmember Gujarat, to jump in here real quick.
No, go
The,
ahead.
when you talk about monitoring, the site, there's also, speaking of, things that may happen,
Sure.
runoff, those kinds of things. Can you talk a little bit about what the expectation is for monitoring to make sure those things aren't happening, or how we're going to mitigate, or how, the county expects to try to mitigate that with SDR or the subcontractors?
Um, well, I've got a lot of experience with, trash.
Yeah.
Love to talk trash. If you want to know anything about the county's trash, I'll talk all day. But, and I'll be involved and be monitoring the site.
Okay.
And SDR again is very experienced in this. So I think you've got, several layers of quality control to make sure that happens, as well as, input from you guys and your staff. We're want to, definitely not wear out a welcome and make sure we're doing something compatible with, your wishes.
So who lays the law down to say SDR or debris tech if things are not going right? Is the finding and everything from a county level, state level, or federal level?
Good question. The contract with SDR is with the county.
Okay,
And I sign their invoices.
I got you.
Or I don't sign their invoices.
I got you.
So, and that is one decision that the county made. We could go with the state contract, or the Corps of Engineers could come in and, use their contractor. But, we felt like, we would have more control, over the operations with the
Yeah.
contract directly.
I like it.
And as a reminder that's the same contract that the town agreed to join for, debris removal across the town of Mills River. Is that same county contract?
That's correct.
Okay, would there be any way this negatively affected the airport?
I'm not aware of. The big thing outside of the, they own or control the parts of the land that are impactful to them. And the only thing outside of that that's regulated is open water, like stormwater ponds. Every time
Retention
somebody has to
pond.
permit a stormwater pond, they have to send it to the airport
Yeah.
commission, and that's for birds.
Well, I mean,
Right.
smoke or anything.
I believe we're outside of any impacts from them. I'm sure they will make us aware quickly if there are.
Oh, yeah.
But,
I was just asking.
yeah, no, that's a good question. I didn't think about that. But I did used to be an airport planner and designer, so a little bit in tune with, it's
Yeah.
been a while, but I'm in tune with that.
Those were my burning questions. The grinding questions, what are y'all planning on doing with the mulch? I mean, do y'all have some place that's gonna take it?
Yeah, and then that's also part of our permit with the state is that it has to be taken to a renewable source. So composting operations, mulch yards, like the Riverside stump dump. They take in material and reduce it and have and then process it for mulch. And then also boiler fuel. So that's an acceptable
Mhm.
use as well. We used to take a lot of material to Canton, but that boiler is shut down for now.
Yeah.
So it's might be.
Okay. And how noisy is it gonna be?
During the
If you
daylight
grind.
hours of grinding, tub grinder will probably be the most noisy piece of equipment.
We could barely hear the grinder on 191 from our house.
Oh, from the stump dump?
We
Okay.
can hear it during the day, but they close down at 6.
Well, he's
Yeah.
talking about this one here compared to just being right here, not all the way from Riverside. He's talking about this
No,
one,
yeah,
right?
no.
yeah.
No, 191.
Oh,
station.
oh, oh,
Okay.
oh, one, okay.
191 station, so I'm
Okay.
500 yards away.
Yeah,
We can hear it during the day, but it's not unbearable at all.
Is there a smell?
Sorry?
Is there a smell?
No, wet wood.
Okay.
Right now, it's getting drier all the time. These
Okay.
incinerators will burn green wood pretty soon.
yeah, there's a little bit of smoke when you add material to them, but they literally are smokeless after the material's been added and catch it. The fan keeps the flame
much
so
oxygen,
hot. that-
yeah.
Yeah, it just,
The grinding stops at 6,
Okay.
regardless of daylight. So if this is 9 months or 6 months, it's 6.
Do they have any insect problems with mulch
uh,
and
I'm
debris
not
coming
aware of any,
in?
we have pretty good sized mulch field at the landfill. The insect problems would be at the convenience center with, the recyclable material,
Yeah.
Okay.
the soda cans and sweets, but, no, not at the, not at the mulch pile.
And
Not
there's-
from my experience.
There's no chance of any of this contaminating groundwater and well water?
I mean, you can't, very, very slim chance. And, we will operate the site to absolutely avoid that. But the risk is on SDR. So we're testing our sites before we go and we're testing it after. And not only is FEMA paying for the operations, you would not believe that how much we're spending a week or FEMA spending a week in Henderson County alone. It's about $500,000. But if the site needs any kind of mitigation afterwards, that's FEMA eligible too, because their commitment to us is to make sure we turn the site at least as good as it was before, if not better. So
Okay. And my last question is rodent control. You can't put poison out for rodents, but with building big brush piles and stuff like that, we don't want a rodent population to come in and explode.
I'm sure there will be some food waste that slips into the trash, but it will be minimal. So, with vegetative debris and structural debris, those typically aren't, don't attract, in the solid waste world, we call them vectors. And we also are experienced on how to control those. So, it shouldn't be a problem. We're not adding anything that should attract them any more than they would already be there.
Well, they're already here,
Then
but I mean, the fields and stuff, but with the whole big neighborhood over there, we kind of want to do what we can to be a good neighbor.
if it's a problem, we are successful at managing them at our solid waste. And got some tricks up our sleeve.
So Marcus, on that, like the household and construction, is it gonna be processed out there much like the transfer station at the landfill? Or are y'all gonna be just taking it from here directly to a different site, or is it gonna be brought over there as it can be and
Uh,
processed again? I'm a little confused as to how it's leaving.
I would imagine, right now, we're taking it to transfer station. We're working at 30, over 30, every day is a higher tonnage than we've ever done before the storm. So we're, at 30% more volume than our capacity.
Okay,
So we are taking it to the landfill, that's not, or the transfer station, that's not sustainable. I would imagine, that, that material will get taken directly to, there's a C&D landfill in Travelers Rest. And then, our material from Stony Mountain goes to Union County, South Carolina.
okay,
And I can see it going to one of those two
Okay.
places, so.
makes sense.
One question just to ask, and I don't know, but we've got an expert in the room. If there was logs instead of grinding them, people could use them for firewood or cutting them for lumber. Is there any way they could,
They really, couple things. One, that, here's one of the FEMA, that's not a permitted FEMA thing to do. Two, it's not gonna be, you know, the residential site we designed for residents to come in and unload. And then they'll move that material over to the larger area, but it's not really we wouldn't want to promote that. It's not, would be safe, to, would be my biggest concern. But now if they pick it up on the right of way before we get to it, that's probably not as safe either, depending on how
Well-
busy the road is, but, technically, we're not supposed to.
promote that?
Yeah.
Okay, just asking.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I understand.
What you got, Jeff?
Probably obvious answer, but I'll ask it, the setbacks, excuse me, the buffer setback, that would also apply to the border with the park. It's the same landowner.
It's at least that, yeah.
Because I too share the concerns of the mayor about, your site's gonna be immediately west of this property, so see winds predominant west or south. And so I fear the loose stuff finding its way into the park. I guess dust control on the road, that's just something if it poses, again, it's immediately to the west. And the amount of traffic coming into the site, dust gets to be a problem over here. Park
Yeah.
users, is that
That does, at the transfer station, we control dust on our gravel roads with the water truck. So that, there's a means to do that.
but the town be able to reach out to you or your staff to say
Reach
that
out to me.
the dust is becoming a concern for park users, or if it should blow the other direction.
Yeah, I'm hoping, 5 council members and Matt are they're our biggest, inspectors, and, please pay attention to it and let us know if you think something's impacting it. Understand it is a debris operation, and the less restrictions we have, the more effective we'll be. But, if we don't have the site at all, we're definitely not gonna be effective. So make sure we're, good leases.
Another obvious answer, but I'll ask it. So it's open 7 days a week, so the reduction processes will be occurring 7 days a week as well.
The timesheets I'm signing don't have a lot going on Sundays. But they're probably collecting, but yeah, all the operations would happen. If you'd let us, we'd probably have it open 24 hours a day, but some stuff at night, wanted to do it at night, you have to bring in a lot of lights, and that's gonna be more of a nuisance probably than anything. So, but we would, but again, if that, becomes a nuisance or a problem, we can look at limiting the hours of reduction operations to certain days too. Yeah, hopefully we've done a really good job addressing stuff in the lease, and hopefully I've answered your question, but there's no way we're gonna
No.
figure out every angle on it. And I'm, committed to you guys to be able to manage the contractor and the site in a way that, appreciate your concerns, even if we have them, 2 weeks from now. Because having the site's really great, and having a site that has restrictions on it is great too, but not having the sites is
Detrimental.
yeah, and y'all are, it's a heroic effort on y'all's part to offer this up, and we appreciate that.
We're fortunate to have it to be able to do that.
I don't think I have anything else. Mayor.
Check. Yes,
I'm fortunate to have moved here 20 years ago. I've never come back from anywhere that I'd rather be than this place. Hopefully, I get to stay here as long as I'm around. So, my personal commitment and wanting to be able to go to the grocery store and not hide my head in shame. So,
exactly.
I'm here to help.
And this is all of us' first time rodeo with any of this mess, but high praise for what Henderson County's done up to this part, because they got people out of this county way before the storm to make sure that we had resources to talk to the world. And then a lot of them didn't, and it set them way back.
Yeah.
So we're fortunate to have the leaders we have to
Jimmy
pull this off.
Brissy yes, definitely.
Yeah.
And then I can't, I'm a transportation engineer and just cannot believe what DOT's done.
Oh, it's unbelievable.
Keeping the roads open, and it's amazing with the temporary repairs. And
Yep.
yeah, it's a big teamwork, and it's going well.
I'm glad to feel like I'm part of it, and feel good about that. So, any more questions?
Make you fellas, make us feel good about the liability over there, not just during operations, but I'm worried about people going down in the middle of the night.
I am too.
Hurting their jobs and coming to the town.
I am
If I
too.
may,
Yeah.
if we have, if I may, I would just say that, there may be, if there are public comment as well for this item in general, that
Sure.
we have an opportunity
Okay.
for that. I just want to open that up. But also there is $1 million liability insurance that is a part of the agreement.
Okay. So let's do that, Marcus. Let's have a seat there a minute. Anyone wish to come up and have any kind of comment on this, proposal here on this contract?
You know,
But are you good? Come on.
So a couple of questions. The liability, does it cover after hours operations? And while you're looking that up, you've asked a lot of the hazmat stuff. Incidental liquids are easy to find in soil tests. Maybe you could help me out here, but we're going to let partially destroyed households. What about asbestos and lead? And how are we going to, that's not just a soil sample here and there, and 9, 6, 15 or more months of being driven on, it's going to be buried. We might have asbestos, lead, house nails, and this is going to be a park. I get it. It's going to be back to the way it was, but the hazmat stuff is a little bit of a concern, if you could.
I got you.
So again, per the agreement, Mr. Mayor and Council, is that the lessee shall obtain and maintain liability insurance coverage in a minimum amount of $1 million and produce proof of same to owner upon reasonable request. And so that would be for the term of the operation, but as they have a lease on that property. So that, for the term of that property. So that's the first thing. The other thing, Mr. Jones, you and I have talked about this a little bit as well with around hazardous materials and the types of hazardous materials. And we talked about there is more language in here specifically calling out issues such as, like coolants and refrigerants and stuff like that. We talked about that a little bit as well. Is there anything you would like to add in regards to mitigation efforts to ensure that those issues are addressed?
It's not risk-free.
I understand.
There's a lot of steps implemented to avoid those risks and then to mitigate what we find, but it's not risk-free, but I think it's fine-tuned to the point that the risk is minimal. The county has a site, Blue Ridge Community College, is the commissioners, supply the ground for that, and I can't guarantee you it's risk-free, but I do think the process reduces that substantially the testing is for your benefit and our benefit too, and SDR's benefit is to make sure that when we leave the site, it's clean and, risk-free.
So would you think they would do gravel pads for drop-off points, especially for the private individuals coming in with their stuff?
It depends on the soils and
Okay,
how we can, navigate it through, but, yeah, that's possible.
okay.
Yeah,
And I don't see a problem with that. I'm just thinking it may have to be that.
yeah.
Okay.
And if, and again, if some of the operations that we're doing are too risky, just let us know. Try to mitigate that
Okay.
but it's not risk-free, but it's SDR has a lot of history. Have used a lot of people's property to do this for decades and, they're still in business and still.
And I will remind everybody, I've lived here my whole life. Jeff's been here a long time. Sandra's been here a whole long time. This over here has been a working farm as long as I could remember. When they do the tests going in,
We were not gonna test for nitrates. I would
But
probably
I'm-
assume that.
well, other chemicals, let's just say, there's no telling what we might find that we didn't even know about. So it might be a good thing for us that they're paying for the pretest. Because,
We'll share that.
thank you. Okay. All right. Any other questions, concerns, public comment? Come on up.
I just have a need for clarification when it comes to us using it, the residents. So I have a gentleman that comes and helps me with my yard work. And you said no contractors for the residential. Will that include him? I mean, he's from around here.
Marcus will have to answer that.
So,
I'm not up to
sorry.
speed on it.
Yeah, it'll probably, I can envision, we can't have contractors
Yeah.
and it's free and it's paid for by the taxpayers. So the taxpayers shouldn't have to pay for that material twice in that they're paying for the operations, the FEMA operations, and then they're also paying the contractor. So that's the thought process behind it. And again, the FEMA officials, made the comment that it seems like the debris stuff's made difficult, but it's not. The debris operations after a storm are had the most opportunity for fraud. And that's why the rules are there to protect your tax dollars. And you could put, the other option is to put the material at your roadside and our contractors will come pick it up and haul it for free. But maybe not as timely as, you would like, but the landfill always will take the debris. I think it's not our tipping fee, but yeah, it's like $40, $50 a ton. So there's always that option. The landfill's really busy right now, so the lines are a little on the long side, but that's getting better. And the more we get the FEMA operation up and running, the less stress will happen. But to answer your question, unfortunately, it'll be policed by, majority of residents would be driving a passenger vehicle, truck. So a pickup truck load or a trailer that is equivalent to a pickup truck load. So you're probably, by having that kind of criteria, you will capture just residents. If you have a dump trailer, I'm sure there's folks that own dump trailers for their personal use, but that's not typical and that's not, there's still options, but they would need to go to them.
And that would include the ton truck that I have. So that's the reason why. I need a little bit of.
No, it is
clarification.
gray, and ultimately, it's like the policies at the landfill. It's the person that's operating the scales that's making the decisions. And we try to put as much guidelines as we can to make sure that the policies are followed, but there's always exceptions, and it's ultimately would be up to that debris tech staff, make a call.
And
That'd be like Sentinel River on it. Be like, hey, I'm from here.
Well, we will include 1-ton trucks and lower. I can think that's fair.
I'd say the biggest thing is if you just keep making a lot of return visits will be the thing that'll set it off too. If you know, if you haul for 4 weeks straight, they're gonna know you're probably not cleaning your yard up.
Well, you're in the compliant vehicles.
Okay, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
I
I
think
heard
you
it.
would waste more money in gas than you would hiring a contractor probably
Yeah.
at some point, but,
If I may, real quick, though, this is a general point to that question as well as that, as Mr. Jones had mentioned. We are very much mindful, and even us as a municipality are mindful of people using this opportunity for fraudulent purposes. And we all, I'm sure, have heard stories of people who have taken, contractors said, yes, well, pay us X amount of money and we'll take off your debris, and then they drive it down the road, and then they drop it in the right of way, and then they don't actually take apart, but the fee itself that you're paying for that contractor, a lot of times has a fee for driving it off property, and part of that fee goes to the transfer fee cost to dump it. And so the one thing to being mindful of, and this is more of a general comment, is we're mindful of the fact that contractors may do that and then dump it in the right of way, and this is one way. My understanding is one way to try to mitigate that as much as possible to where, again, to your point, you're not paying for it twice, right? And so I just wanted to throw that out there for people to be mindful of that when they're talking to contractors as well.
but yeah, there's already bandit outlaw sites driving back into Hendersonville on the left before you get to, Rugby. Yeah, I've seen 2 people out there. So it's not a perfect system, but you try to establish policies that get as close to it as you can. But 1-ton truck.
Anybody else, come on up? Absolutely. Yes.
Just knowing, so Haywood Road being a 2-lane road, Jim's development across the street, retirement people coming and going, Mills River Village coming and going, the issues we already have at Banner Farm and Haywood Road with traffic backing up because the semi's waiting to turn in.
Yeah.
I would just say when we do, if this does happen, try and mitigate as much traffic on Haywood Road as we
I
can.
gotcha.
That would be my concern with people trying to
Gotcha.
pass left of center,
Gotcha.
because we had it during the
Yep.
um,
Mhm.
resource center.
Yep.
We had people passing left of center because traffic was backed out into that 2-lane road, Haywood Road. So
Yep, perfect. That's
my,
good.
that would be my only concern from my standpoint.
That's a great idea.
All the traffic's coming in this one entrance only, correct?
So
Yeah, I mean, we can build another access. For control purposes, it's better to have one way in and out. Your site is large enough to have a pretty good queue inside the site, so, and not back up vehicles to where it backs up stuff. So we can get them in the site and have them lined up on the property as opposed to into the travel lanes trying to make a turn. So it's a good site for that reason.
speaking of entryways as well, and in general, I'll just say I want to thank the county as well for being, they've shared it here. Mr. Jones has shared it here as well, but also throughout this process, saying as much whatever they can to make sure that this is an amicable partnership to meet the needs of this community as well. One of the things that they've highlighted, and we've already had preliminary conversations on, is we know we're going to activate that site at some point in the future. And so if there is an entry point that needs to be added as a culvert or some other temporary driveway or purpose such as that one, they're going to work with us on identifying where that should be put in. That'll be beneficial for us in the future. And then also leaving that culvert or temporary driveway or entryway to the property once the lease is ended. And so I just think it's also something to highlight as a part of the discussions and shared partnership trying to make this happen, that they're willing to work with us on that kind of use that that we know will also help us in the future when we start to develop it.
Anything else? Anybody else? Hearing none. Before we go to, entertain a motion on this, would you like to excuse yourself as being an next door property owner to this?
I would.
So, We don't do this much. Do we, one of us make a motion to excuse her? Yeah.
So
okay.
I would recommend that Councilmember Good makes a motion to recuse herself from it due to a potential financial, uh, um, uh, due to a potential financial, action that may come from this decision. So
Okay.
and-
So she will make it herself?
Okay, I make a motion to remove myself from this vote.
Motion and vote. Okay.
Okay, because, of
Potential financial
potential financial
gain or loss.
gain or loss.
All right. I need a second.
I'll second.
Jeff second. Any more discussion on her excusing? No. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none. Okay. What's y'all's pleasure? I'm ready. All right, got a motion. How about a second?
I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Jeff. Any discussion?
Would it be out of order for me to ask a question of the
No,
manager?
sure not. Go ahead.
I don't want to put the Parks Director on the spot, so I'll direct this to you, but I trust in developing this lease and considering this use of that property, the Parks Director's had an opportunity to weigh in on any concerns or.
Yes. Yes. So throughout the conversation, at various points, Parks and Rec Director and I have been in a very close conversation about what the potential pieces and lease agreements are and the elements of within it, and trying to mitigate those concerns as much as possible, including, and just to go a little further into that, including what the potential timelines may be for potential phase approaches to what we're going to be looking at in there. So all of those pieces have been taken into consideration. But if it's all right with you, Councilmember Young, just turn it over to Parks and Rec Director Sweat, just in case she wants to add anything to that.
Sure, yeah, we have talked extensively about this. Am I thrilled about it? Absolutely not. But I do see the need in the community, and I don't think it's gonna have any long-term impacts on our development. We know some of the first things we need to do to that property as far as development is in our riverbank area anyway, which is not gonna be affected by this lease. And expansion of our maintenance facility, which is also not in this lease. So we do feel, while it is gonna have impact on the park, it is gonna have impact on our users just with noise and visuals. But obviously there's a big need right now, and that's the long-term impact's not there. It's a short-term, I don't want to say nuisance, but something that we're gonna have to deal with short-term, but long-term, we're gonna say, hey, remember when those big piles of sticks were out there? And now it's a big, beautiful park. So yeah,
Definitely.
we
Everything happens for a reason.
Yep.
It does. Okay, we have a first, second. Any more discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none. All right, Marcus, you got a deal. Hey, will you take my card and possibly try to give me a call tomorrow? I would prefer early in the morning because me and him's going to Morganton to that big shindig down there. I just got a couple ideas I want to run by you on getting in and getting out on the property. 8 o'clock be good. We should be on the road. Yeah.
Scott Matzonis he's not afraid to use it.
Okay, thank you. All right, have a good night, Marcus.
Yes. Yeah. He has regretted giving me that phone number ever since.
As well as I have.
Exactly. Yes.
Oh, boy. Okay, C, discussion on next steps for Mills River Park expansion property. Well, we just turned into a landfill.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
So, but before we jump in, and I entertained this, I just wanted to say, as Parks and Rec Director Sweat mentioned as well, that we know that there's going to be an impact by that decision, and we know that some people may contact and say that it's nice or that what's going on. And the one thing that I would ask is that it's also showing, one, that there's a need within our community, and then it's also progress to getting us back to a state of normal as fast as possible. And so, with that being said, on that part of the property, we now have an understanding of how we're going to be moving forward. But this item item C in front of you is discussing the floodplain section, which is obviously not part of the lease. It's further down near the river. And so again, as a part of the previous lease agreement with Mr. Johnson that ended on November 1st, now the conversation comes to specifically around making sure that there's a cover crop appropriate for that to make sure it continues to stay in ag use, that it's appropriate moving forward, but then also having a conversation about how best to move forward, obviously with the timeline that we have, et cetera. So Mayor Gantz requested that we add this item on as a discussion item about the best method for moving forward.
So Jeff, I'll lean on you a little heavy on this.
Oh, and if I may, I'm so sorry, I will say we did recommend in here a crop and just for consideration as well, which was a winter crop. And now my papers are all
That's okay.
next, but a rye or barley, I believe, were the options that were a part of the
Some of the first
agreement.
discussions to me was, sowing it down in fescue or something, and I was just concerned that it wouldn't even start to come up this time of year. So if we did it, we'd do it in combination with some rye or something to get something to hold it for now.
You're right in that respect that I don't.
Yeah.
We're almost to Thanksgiving, so it's
Yeah.
a big ask of fescue to get a robust stand before we get in the serious winter weather, but you'll have much better luck on these cover crops.
Right. So, it's my understanding that, even though the contract is up, do we still want him to go in there, try to look and check for logs and still pick the corn and shell it, then haul it off site if he will? Or where are we at with, are we just willing to bush hog it and let it, regenerate if so next spring through the cover crop? And my biggest concern, is just how we address it moving forward,
And I had this discussion with the manager weeks ago, and I said that the purpose of having cover on there to protect it from erosion.
Yeah.
That if the entire crop is still there and it's bush hogged down, that was sufficient. And in the meeting, you had mentioned about Roundup Ready corn and volunteering and they can't go after it. So that was a concern. So I thought, okay, maybe that's not an option. But I had said to the manager that as one member of council that I was satisfied with the bush hogging of the corn and leaving all the 100% residue, because then you'll have almost 100% coverage.
Yeah.
And it'll serve its purpose. But that doesn't address any concerns about volunteer Roundup Ready corn coming up.
Right.
And a subsequent crop.
Do you feel like that's gonna be or do you might know, Shay, if it comes up again next year, if it goes to full, it's just gonna keep regenerating this? Or do we think it's just gonna play out in a year or two, like anything else would?
It's an annual crop, so if this volunteer crop comes up, as long as it ever doesn't go to producing an ear and
Right.
seed, basically,
It don't make it. Yeah.
it won't come back. It'll be a one-time.
Okay. So do we think if we bush hog it, cover crop is necessary this year? Or just bush hog it and let that hold it till spring and we decide what we want to do? Maybe we fescue it then.
My recommendation, or if I was the tenant that, or if I was the landowner, that bush hogging and leaving that residue is sufficient for the reasons why we dictate that in the lease, basically to have cover, not bare ground, especially in the floodplain.
Gotcha. You got any input on it, Sandra? Just a preference?
No, any corn that's chopped up, the geese will eat.
Shay? Gonna go somewhere, ain't they? No. Yeah. And everybody, and even bush hogging it or anything, whoever we contract to do that is gonna have to do a visual in there somehow because of washed in logs, stumps, rocks, debris, keep them tearing the equipment up. As well as what's happened at your place. I'm sure there's a little of that in there. It's just not the same terrain, but there could be something there. So. So what's our pleasure? Try to get them looking into, developing, getting somebody to bush hog it, and we just let it set?
I just think, given, I'm sorry to interrupt.
No.
This time of year, time is of
Yeah.
the essence.
Mm.
And if you're gonna ask them to take the crop off and then either drill it or conventional tillage and till it up and broadcast seed out there,
Right.
you're talking Christmas time probably for the seeds actually in the ground.
Germinate.
And you're really hoping for a warm winter to have a successful stand. So given the cards dealt to us with this hurricane, the farmer, or if the farmer does it or the tenant does it, he would actually be probably ahead just to bush hog it because he's not having to buy the seed and make
Right.
2, 3 more trips over that same ground. So
Okay.
that should be attractive if I was the tenant, say, in lieu of a cover crop, if I just beat this down, that fulfilled the obligations of my lease agreement.
Okay. Come on.
Yeah, that I know at one time, that was Roundup Ready corn, you're not allowed to save your seed. Because they would actually, Monsanto actually sued some farmers for saving their seed and replanting.
Right.
You want to make sure you don't get into a legal bind and they come and want to fine or take money from the town if you let it grow back up. So if you do this, you may want to take come spring when it if it sprouts, hit it again.
Gotcha.
Because I know they've really hurt some people in years past by coming up and suing them and winning that they had
Yes,
replanted the seed without paying.
good
Because
call.
it is a protected seed. So.
And
don't
what
let
I,
the town
yeah,
Spend any money.
exactly. And what I think we're trying to do here is just get through the winter months. Come springtime, we'll readdress it. Try to get it planted back in something that's manageable. You know, fescue, something, clover, something manageable.
Well, and this is all in response to a hurricane. So
Yes,
this
exactly.
isn't general for business.
Right.
It's try
And just for everybody's knowledge, you know, all the corn that got flooded, they're just having to go in and pick it, shell it, and then go take it to a site and dump it because they can't feed it and you have to get it off because of this regeneration process that could occur and take nutrients out of all the soil around it when they plant next year. It'll be coming up in the middle of rows and everywhere, just volunteer. So they're having to pick it, transport it to a site, and it may even get incinerated if they don't have a proper site to put it in, to stockpile it, let it rot. So it's a loss. All of it's a loss. Okay, so we'll direct staff to look into finding someone to bush hog it, and we'll just leave stock in place. Is that council's intent here?
If I may, just for clarification.
Yep.
And so again, under the lease, under the amended lease agreement,
Okay,
there is, and the conversations, to my understanding with, Mr. Johnston.
okay,
Is that he would, there would still be an expectation that he would, and I believe he had requested to be able to go through there and, and to
okay.
get through that corn. It's a council direction to say that you're looking to ask him to bush hog it as an end to his
If
lease agreement, or is
yes.
it to us to go a different route?
No, if it's in his amended agreement, because we talked both ways before, but if it's in there, that's what we want him to do.
So there's not a requirement for a cover crop planted. So we removed the cover crop
Right.
planted piece of it. I'm just talking through my understanding of the way conversations went about through that amended process, that that there may be a willingness to get the corn off of that area. And if there's the idea of removing the corn from that area, then bush hogging or what have you afterwards. I'm not, again,
No,
I'm
if
going to
you,
turn it to you all to help me.
okay, so just so you understand, if he goes in there and picks it, it turns it into everything left will be real fine dust. Is it correct? You think it'll be sufficient? Okay,
My understanding is if it is similar to the situation that is currently out there with the stocks at their current level, that would not provide a sufficient cover crop. And if that is the case, my understanding is that we would want to then move forward with directing staff to look at finding a bush hogging operation to,
after they pick, just to get it, sling it out, yeah, because there'll be road up behind it. Okay. So you know where we're at, or you're still looking for clarification?
I would prefer if council, directed us with their own verbiage, so I understand.
It's my intention that the tenant, Mr. Johnston, push hog it, because to me, that's a better deal than what he had of having put out a cover crop. So, I would like the town to pursue asking him to push hog that crop and leave the resident in lieu of planting any kind of cover crop.
Okay, is that it? You don't need that in the form of a motion, do you?
No,
Just direct.
this was a discussion item to try to better understand the
Okay,
best path moving forward. And just before we move on, if council is willing, turn it to Parks and Rec Director Sweat, just to make sure that there isn't anything else that we need to discuss around that parcel.
all right. If there's nothing else for the night, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you, Jeff, and then Shay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, we're out of here.